When I was 21, I was living in a 2-bedroom apartment with my 15-year-old sister and our mom. How we ended up there is another story in itself. The complex was in the same town I grew up in. It wasn't the best complex around, but it also wasn't the worst. I took comfort in the fact that we would see the security guards roaming quite often because the laundry units were in every other building, and of course, our building didn't have a unit, so I felt safer knowing there were guards around when I did my laundry late at night. I was on the top floor, so I'd have to drag my laundry down 5 flights of stairs, walk outside to the neighboring building, and go to the lower level to do laundry. One day I noticed a new security guard. He was a large man, probably about 6 feet 3 inches, very muscular build. He looked like a mixed-race Mr. Clean, to give you an idea. He wasn't as friendly as other guards. He didn't really acknowledge residents, so he was a little scary and intimidating. My friend lived in the same complex in a building behind me. There was a little playground and tennis court that separated front buildings from back buildings. One day my friend texted me around 10 p.m. saying she went to do her laundry, and she saw him lurking around the building she needed to go into. The guards were only supposed to survey the grounds outside, and only go inside a building for suspicious activity. They only had keys to the building front doors but didn't have keys for laundry units, at least that's what we were told. He ended up following her into the laundry room, where she verbally assaulted him and threatened to call management if he didn't get the frick out. She said he stood still just glaring at her and left the building without saying a word. Now that this was fresh in my mind, I was on high alert. A few weeks go by, and I come home after work around 9:30 p.m. When I pulled into my lot, I noticed the power was out. The whole parking lot and all the buildings were pitch black. No light sources detected anywhere. I decided to back my car into a spot so I could have a clear view of my building from my car. I was a little hesitant to get out because I had some bags of hair product I bought from work, some food I picked up, my water bottle and my purse to carry, and I knew it would take some time to gather my stuff and lock up my car. We also had some homeless people nearby that would dig through the dumpster bins, search the lot for cigarette butts that were still smokable. One man in particular seemed very strung out and unpredictable, so I didn't want to have a run-in when I could barely see anything. I called my mom to come down and open the door for me, but she didn't answer. My sister never answers her phone, so I didn't even bother trying. I sat in the car contemplating my next move. By then my eyes had somewhat adjusted to the darkness, and I decided to stop being such a chicken shit and just go inside. As I gathered up my things, the power suddenly came back on and I felt so relieved. But when I looked into the windows of my building, that relief quickly turned to fear and suspicion. I saw that same security guard that followed my friend, standing on our top floor landing and staring at our door. There were 3 other doors on my floor, and he was standing in front of ours. As I gathered up my things, there were 3 other doors on my floor, and he was standing in front of ours. He didn't move for a few seconds and just stared at our door, with his head leaned forward like he was trying to listen through our door. He then slowly turned and made his way downstairs. I called my mom again and she answered this time. I told her what I saw and she came down to get me and then called building management. I never saw him again. It would happen if he quit or got fired, but I was very relieved that we wouldn't have to deal with his strange behavior anymore. Apparently other residents had strange encounters with him as well. In all the true crime stories I've seen, there have been many involving apartment hotel maintenance security, so always stay aware. These people are supposed to help protect you. But this is a job that allows people to get very close to you and your home. So I'm a new Uber Eats driver, only been going about a month. I was just completing an order in the middle part of town, not too suburbs but also not too iffy. As I walked up to my customers, I see there's a man and woman in the doorway and another woman across from them on the sidewalk. The woman in the doorway is standing timidly behind the guy and his jaw looks firm. She doesn't break eye contact with me as I walk up, but I try not to pay it much mind. The guy accepted it, said thanks and rushed him and his girl into the building. I started to walk back to my car when I noticed the woman from before gently calling for me to stop. She was gently saying, "Hey," and I almost didn't catch it. However, I did notice her trying to keep pace with me on my way to my car. That sent my haunches up, and I did a quick little 1-2 step to get a bit in front of her, jumped into my car without breaking eye contact with her. Quick pushed the lock button on my door, and she still proceeded to try and reach for my passenger side door, as if to open it. She heard the door click and stopped on her way to grab it. She bent down to look at me through my window, and her eyes looked far off and bleary. She kept mouthing something, but just like before, her voice was very quiet, and I couldn't hear her. I cracked my window just a bit so I could hear her, but not enough that she could get a hand inside. I said, "Sup?" I was pretending to be callous and hard, but I am very soft and easily intimidated. I'm not good with confrontation, and in most dangerous situations I tend to panic. I'm really proud of myself at this point that I was quick enough to think of all of these safe solutions. She starts just talking in circles about, "What are you doing? Where are you going? You can't deliver for Uber. You're in high school," etc. Keep in mind that I do have a baby face, but I am 30 years old. I'm polite but curt with her and tell her yes, I am doing deliveries and now I have to go. Did you need something, or did you need any help? She keeps trying to talk in circles, but as I'm about to insist that I am peeling out, she says, "Hey, let me come with you." I get this weird feeling in the back of my neck because she looks like what she said was a perfectly sane request, and still did not break eye contact with me. Also keep in mind that this entire time she's been speaking with a very gentle and quiet voice, as if she was talking to a small scared animal. I say no thanks. She insists, saying, "Just trust me, I'm going to go with you, just trust me." Again, this point getting more nervous, I say, "No thanks, I'm about to drive off, you should step back so I don't run over your feet." She tries to get closer, maybe thinking that if she doesn't move I won't move. She's sadly mistaken, and I start rolling slowly forward, saying, "You better step back, I'm about to crush your feet." She kept laughing to some unknown joke in her own mind, saying, "You're so funny, you're so funny." I peeled out of there and confusedly looked back in my rearview mirror. I never come across someone like that before, and I've been in much rougher neighborhoods than this, so I was very confused. I called my husband, who was used to living in the rougher part of my large city, and said that she could have potentially been trying to trap me so that another person or car could roll up on my driver's side and potentially jump me or try to steal my car. I'm always glad for his insight. Because of my shelteredness, I have no idea about all of these strategies that people have to get one up on you. This all happened about an hour ago, and I thought sharing this information might help someone out there. Stay safe, y'all. This story happened to me back when I still lived at my parents' house. I was commuting to college at the time, and had 3 siblings that also lived at home, my brother and 2 sisters. For some context, we lived on 5 acres in rural Ohio, surrounded on both sides by woods and farm fields. Additionally, during the week, my dad normally left for work at 2 a.m. So I had always felt like it my job to be the man of the house, because he was gone during the times when you would imagine something sketchy happening. However, on this night, because it was the weekend, my dad was home. I woke up to the sound of my brother's voice trying to get my attention. We had separate rooms upstairs, and coming out of our rooms you could look down over the banister and to see our front door. When I woke up, it took a few moments to get out of the haze and realize what was going on. I looked at the clock, and it was around 2:30 a.m., and my brother told me there were 2 men at our front door. Now this really woke me up. We quietly walk out of my room and peek over to look down at the front door. When we looked, there was no one at the door, but I noticed my parents off to the side, out of view of the glass on the front door. I whispered down to my dad, and he told me there were 2 guys who had been talking to each other and knocking on the door. Hearing my dad say this freaked me out even more. I went back into my room and grabbed my pistol, quickly shuffling down the stairs after looking to make sure they weren't at the door. If they had been, they would have easily seen me coming down the stairs, as it is in direct view of the door. My brother is right behind me as we head over to where my parents are, whispering to try and find out what is going on. My parents had awoken to the sound of our dog barking and had come out to find these 2 men knocking loudly at the door. At this point, the men return and begin knocking again, despite the fact that no one had come to the door and our dog was still actively barking. The fact that they were there at this time, in a location where houses are spread out hundreds of yards, and still knocking with the dog barking, made the situation even more terrifying. After a couple of minutes, the men walked away, and we all shuffle across the kitchen into the family room to peek out the windows into our driveway, which is lit up by our outside light. There was a black Cadillac sitting there, but no one was inside from what we could see. Immediately the question was, where did these guys go? They weren't in their car, and they were no longer at the front door. Unfortunately, we figured out the answer when the handles on our back French doors started jiggling. They were actively trying to enter the back of our house, which enters into the kitchen. At this point, I just remember my mom frantically saying, "David!" to my dad, as pure terror overwhelmed her. Then two things happened. Adrenaline filled my body as I prepared my handgun, horrified at the very real possibility that I might have to shoot these men. Secondly, my dad finally grabbed the phone, called the police, and calmly told them what was happening. Thankfully, after a minute of jiggling, they stopped at the back door and disappeared again, only to return to their knocking at the front. However, at this point, several minutes had gone by and suddenly we saw the local police fly up in multiple cruisers with their lights on. As they whipped into our driveway and front yard, the two men bolted away, attempting to run the long way around the house across the driveway. One of them disappeared out of our view, but the other one was intercepted by an officer yelling for him to get on the ground. He didn't, and he was immediately tasered and fell on the ground. Some of the officers went around the house after the other guy, and one of them came to talk to my dad and I as we came out the front. They ended up finding the other man hiding in my sister's little playhouse in the backyard. While they were both arrested that night, we never did find out what they were charged with or what happened to them.